John T Scanlon helped me. I go off to very soon to treatment, and I hope to obey the law and all that. And here's the blue line. Walk the blue line. Their sacrifice never be forgotten, as they did not die in vain. And that's kind of like what the Honden would be at a Shinto holy site like the Capitol Hill. Before I go and greet the Capitol Hill queens and kings and those who are carved into granite, and it's a lot of memorials to dead people, and sometimes they cover the entire hill with red markers for specifically one gender that is getting violently murdered. Those are women, and it's so interesting. I was calling these women that were visiting me, that I thought were anyways, calling them Capitol Hill queens before I know there was a Capitol Hill in the state of Minnesota, and I believe that they wore red socks and red high heels because they have their own Vatican, and that was before I realized that our Capitol building is modeled after the Vatican, but a lot of their Vatican floats, I realized it's on boats, they float around. The tribe of Dan were day knights, they were sailors, Tribe of Dan is also an eagle, as you can see here, and the all-seeing eye of Ra was the eye of a hawk, because Ra, the sun god, often had the head of a hawk, and the all-seeing eye of Ra was actually the females that were fighting all of his battles for him. The sky girls, the queens of heaven, they were the ones managing politics and fighting battles and doing the stuff a man does better than a man, and doing the police work. And Inanna was the goddess of the law and order and warfare, and she really had she had the Arab nations as the only superpowers for many years, and the ones that are the most envied, and the ones like with Egypt, where Joseph becoming a slave to Pharaoh, saved him. Pharaoh's dreams were even though he's a pagan, being a slave to that pagan deity, because that's what Pharaoh was theologically, was an incarnation of a pagan sun god, standing in place, the mediator, and yet the dream of this pagan sun god was necessary. It was good to save, and Joseph had to recognize that this Pharaoh, this pagan, is receiving a divinely inspired dream that we do not necessarily know is from the God of Abraham. It might be from one of the Egyptian deities or something, but the bottom line is the Abrahamic monotheist who was a slave to the pagan deity. The pagan deity gave the Abrahamic monotheist control of his household and his possessions and his kingdom, so that he would tell everybody who came to Pharaoh, go to Joseph. And Joseph of Nazareth, we see it again. Jesus is considered the incarnation of a divinity, God, type of God incarnate, he said he and the Father are one, and when you've seen me, you've seen the Father, and but it's really confusing. But anyway, and yet in the Virgin Mary is called the Ark of the New Covenant, Immaculate Conception, and she's considered sinless and stuff. So those two are more holy, and one of them just way totally more divine theologically than Joseph. But in that household, Saint Joseph was the one who was the superior. He called the shots, and he saved Jesus Christ from getting murdered by when the man, who was that guy's, what the hell was his name? Herod was killing all the babies in Bethlehem. It was Joseph having a dream telling him to flee to Egypt, okay? And so he fled to Egypt. So people say, oh, the dead are sleeping, and so they can't help you. Dude, do you realize Jesus Christ, his life was saved by Joseph because of something that could reach him while he was sleeping in a dream, okay? And Joseph of the Old Testament, his dreams got him to Egypt, where his ability to interpret dreams got him to the Pharaoh, to control the Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's dreams, if Pharaoh didn't have those dreams, the greatest superpower, the only superpower, would have been destroyed, and God only knows how many survivors there would have been, what percentage of the world would have died. And so what does that have to do with John T Scanlon? Well, I had a dream about I had a dream about Janice Ott was a probation officer, okay? She was killed July 14th, 1974. And in jail, I found a 1974 penny. And 1974 was the year that both of Benito Mussolini's books that I wouldn't even want to think about the guy or talk about him or have any interest in the guy if I didn't read those books. But written by Rachel Mussolini, who has my birthday. They both came out January 1st. 1974, and I find a 1974 penny when you're not supposed to find pennies in jail, and he used to bury coins beneath his obelisk to the sun god, but it would just say, it's still there, it says Mussolini, it's just instead of Ra, but Mussolini means Jacob, and Jacob also married Rachel, and so Jacob was the sun disk in Joseph's prophetic dream. And so there he may have, but also his, when we discovered King Tut, when we actually discovered he was a pharaoh, because like for some reason nobody really knew knew anything about King Tut being a pharaoh until, I mean, not so much after his death. You know, he went from being like unknown to becoming the most famous and important pharaoh in the history of them all in the, you know, in the history of the Egyptian kingdom and religion and civilization. He shouldn't have been either, because he died at the age of 19, same age as Denise Nazand died when both of his books came out. Her final birthday, 19th birthday, January 1st, 0101. Well, Janice, the way it's pronounced, at least not so much the way it's spelled, is the god with two heads, two faces, and the god of gates, which is the symbol for Shinto, the god of the Tories, the god of the bridge, and then Denise means Dionysus, and Marie, you know, Dionysus and Mary, her first and middle name, and she was born Feast of the Mother of God, okay? Dionysus and Mary, I mean, they both, Mary's especially, but they both were responsible for water turning into wine. Even though Jesus worked the miracle, he did not want to turn that water into wine at the wedding at Cana. His hour had not yet come. His father had not told him to do not start your ministry and working miracles publicly before the appointed time. But when his mother had a concern that he grumbled about and didn't like, and it wasn't his concern, reluctantly, he did what he did not want to do, okay? And that is what is the lovely thing, is we can get God to do what he doesn't want to do, and nobody can do that better than his mother can, okay? And Moses was able to get God to do things he didn't want to do, and it saved like 99% of Israel from getting exterminated in the worst per capita genocide that God ever raised somebody up to commit against a group of people, you know? He was... yeah, it's very good to fight God, because Israel is a very holy, sacred name. Israel is the name that God predestined to be the name of his bride, his holy country, but also the church, the Catholic Church, calls itself the New Israel. Other churches tend to do that too, and that name literally comes from Jacob fighting with God and winning, and not letting go of God when God asked him to. So I have a dream about Janice Ott. She's my probation officer, and she's doing something like strip search, or asking me to do like some sort of a strip search to see if I got contraband or something, which usually a probation officer doesn't do that. Well, I wake up from the dream, and it's the feast of St. Matthew, you know, my name's Matthew, and I go for a walk down to John T Scanlon Park, and I notice he is killed on Janice Ott's birthday. The birthday of Janice Ott is February 14th, okay? And she died partially because of the incompetence of a policeman who, when I checked, he was facing up to 94 years for what he did that contributed to the death of Meadow Pollock. Anyway, so it's so weird. I'm having this dream about Janice Ott, and then John T Scanlon was killed on her birthday, February 14th. And then the following February 14th, I move into room 17. The day 17 died, 17 were injured, and we were young and we died, remember us, and that's what 17 means. I have lived